Welcome. We're about to get into a really fascinating analysis today. It's all about a problem that, well, it quietly holds back so many incredibly talented, high-skill professionals. We're calling it the Online Invisibility Trap.
Hmm.
And you might be listening right now thinking, I've spent 20, maybe even 30 years mastering my field. You have a level of expertise that in the real world makes you indispensable.
Right.
But then you go to translate that online, maybe on LinkedIn or your website or even in a pitch.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're just gone, lost in all the noise.
Just another voice in the crowd. It's a huge source of frustration for so many people.
It is. So a listener actually sent us a stack of material focusing on one specific industry quantity surveying, or QS.
Very technical field.
Extremely. But listen, if you're not in construction, please do not tune out. The QS profession is really just our case study today.
It's the lens.
Exactly. It's the lens. The strategies we're about to pull apart, they're all about turning deep technical expertise into highly visible premium opportunities. This applies to anyone aiming for that top tier.
Any high-skill consultant, really.
This is the playbook for moving past that hourly grind and becoming one of those sought-after, authoritative, six-figure freelancers.
And that's the key phrase right there. We're talking about a very specific career trajectory.
So our mission today is very focused. We want to uncover the exact reason this invisibility happens and then, extract the core strategy to fix it. And fix it fast.
Because it's not a gradual fix. The change can be almost immediate when you get this right.
Right. Because if your goal is to stop being seen as just competent labor and start being seen as a strategic, high-value partner, well, your digital presence isn't optional.
No, it's the engine. It's the primary driver of all your opportunities.
So that's what we're unpacking today.
And that framing is perfect because it really sets up the central conflict we saw in all this material. You've got these professionals who've, like you said, dedicated decades to their craft. They're the very definition of experience.
The best of the best.
And yet they really struggle to articulate their value in a way that brings clients to them.
They don't get those inbound calls.
Exactly. No inbound interest. And they just watch, completely frustrated as maybe their peers who might have less experience but better positioning. They see them capture all the best projects.
And command those elite fees.
And command those elite consultant fees. It's maddening for them. And it leads them to the wrong conclusion. They think, oh, I must need to post more, or I need to learn the LinkedIn algorithm, or I have to dumb down my message.
Yeah, that's a common one.
But the material is so clear on this. The failure has nothing to do with their technical skill, and it's not even about a lack of effort. It's a fundamental breakdown in how they connect their own expertise to what the client actually cares about.
Their commercial reality.
Their commercial reality. It's like you're a brilliant quantum physicist, but you're trying to explain your value to a class of kindergartners.
Ha, that's a perfect analogy. The language is just completely wrong.
The language gap is profound.
Okay, so that brings us right to the core thesis. The big reveal that really anchors this entire discussion. The source material is, well, it's emphatic on this point. The problem isn't your skill. It is 100% your messaging.
That's it. That's the whole game.
So we're going to spend the bulk of our time really unpacking how you shift your language, moving away from describing what you do, your tasks,
right,
and moving toward describing the desirable outcome you create. Because that shift changes absolutely everything. It is the single most powerful lever you can pull to get visible and start commanding the rates you need to join the ranks of those six-figure freelancers.
And the transformation is so immediate because outcome-based language just completely sidesteps competition.
Chelsea?
Well, it doesn't ask the client to evaluate your process. It's not about, is your spreadsheet better than the other guy's spreadsheet?
Right.
It asks the client to evaluate the emotional and the financial relief you're providing them. And when a client truly understands that you are the person who solves their biggest, most existential fears, the conversation stops being about cost.
And it becomes about?
It becomes about essential investment. It's a need to have, not a nice to have.
Okay, let's really get into the weeds on this paradox. Why is it that these specialized consultants, we're using a QS as our example, someone managing billions in project costs, but it could be a niche regulatory lawyer, an infrastructure engineer.
Any deep specialist.
Exactly. People with verifiable, decade-long track records. Why are they hitting this wall of online invisibility? In, every other era of business, experience was the guarantee of authority.
It's what the sources call the digital paradox of experience. Historically, you're right. In a local economy or a referral network, your reputation did all the work for you.
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth. Your 20 years in the industry were vetted by people who knew people. That's how trust was built. But the digital world, it's just this massive, incredibly noisy, fast-moving place.
It has no memory.
It has no memory of your past projects unless you constantly remind it. And it definitely doesn't reward subtlety or generic claims to fame.
So the big realization then, the thing that's so liberating for anyone listening,
is that it has absolutely nothing to do with your core technical skill.
say that again, because I think people need to hear that.
Your skill is not the problem. If you're a QS consultant, we can just assume you are brilliant at doing a bill of quantities, a BOQ.
And for those outside of construction, what is that exactly?
A BOQ is basically the master document. It's this comprehensive list of every single material, all the labor, every service you need to build a project. It's incredibly complex, detailed work.
The foundation of the whole thing.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. Your competence at doing that is just the ticket to the game. It doesn't get you a better seat. It doesn't differentiate you in all that digital noise.
So for the elite consultants, the ones we're focusing on,
For them, competence is just the baseline expectation. Positioning is the real separator.
okay, so if competence is just the starting point, what is the roadblock that's preventing that effective positioning?
Yeah.
And how does it, actually show up on their profiles?
The material points to one thing: messaging. Specifically, it's the habit of using descriptive language instead of influential language.
Descriptive versus influential. Can you break that down?
Descriptive language just states what you do. I manage contracts. Influential language states the impact of what you do. I prevent costly contract disputes. It's a universal failure across any field where expertise is really high.
So clients aren't ignoring these experts because they're blind.
No. They're ignoring them because the experts all sound exactly the same. They're invisible because they're generic.
Which brings us to what the source calls the default ineffective message. This is the list of doom, as I like to call it.
List of doom, that's perfect.
The common messaging, the language that absolutely kills your visibility, is that laundry list of tasks you see on every other LinkedIn profile, header and bio. I offer cost estimating, BOQs, procurement, commercial management, variations, and contract support.
Now, while every single one of those things is accurate,
Completely true.
it's essentially just the table of contents from a job description. It's the language of inputs. It's not positioning. It's just a scope of work.
And crucial.
And crucially, it forces the reader, your potential client, to already be an expert in your field just to understand why any of that stuff matters. You're making them do all the work.
So why does this task-based approach fail so spectacularly?
Because if you sound exactly like every other QS consultant or every other fractional head of finance or every specialized engineer out there, you just vanish. You become the very definition of a commoditized service.
A commodity. And the implication of being seen as a commodity is, well, that's severe, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially if you're aiming to be one of those six-figure freelancers.
It's fatal to that ambition. Because when your messaging is just a checklist of tasks, you immediately force the client's decision down to the lowest common denominator.
Price.
Think about it. If your headline deliverable is a BOQ, the client's immediate thought is, okay, how much does a BOQ cost?
And then they go shopping.
They go shopping. And if they can find someone overseas or a junior firm who offers that same task for half your price, why wouldn't they take it? You have framed yourself as an operational expense, not a strategic premium level investment.
Okay, I have to push back a little here. Because a highly experienced QS has to mention procurement and BOQs. I mean, those are their core services. How can a professional who does these things avoid mentioning them without sounding, I don't know, vague or unprofessional?
That's an excellent question, a really necessary clarification. The source isn't saying you should never mention the tasks.
Okay.
It's arguing that you should never use the tasks as your primary positioning message, your headline, your hook.
So it's about hierarchy of information.
Exactly. You don't get rid of the technical terms, you just move them down.
Yeah.
You move them to the how section of the conversation. The focus, your opening salvo, needs to be on the why and the so what.
Give me an example of that.
Okay. The high-value client, the one who's going to pay you premium rates, they're not really interested in the elegance of your BOQ process.
Right.
What they're interested in is the fact that your perfect BOQ process eliminates the risk of a multi-million-dollar variation claim 6 months into the project.
That's their real fear.
That variation claim is their existential fear. When you lead with the task, you force the client to connect those dots themselves. They have to do the mental work to figure out the value.
But when you lead with the outcome,
you deliver the value proposition on a silver platter. The goal is to shift the entire conversation from, are you competent at doing task X, to, are you the person who can solve my $10 million problem?
So, in essence, if you're listing what you do, your scope of work, instead of the commercial or organizational problem, you fix the outcome, you are actively weaving your own invisibility cloak.
Yes. And you're putting a hard ceiling on your rates.
You're suppressing your own value.
Exactly. And that inability to articulate the commercial consequence of your expertise is the single biggest barrier to becoming a highly visible premium specialist. The technical skill is there, it's rock solid, but the commercial articulation is missing. And that's why this next pivot is just. It's completely non-negotiable.
All right, this is where the script completely flips for anyone who's aiming to become one of those premier six-figure freelancers. If that task list is what makes you invisible, what language actually gets you seen?
This is where the source material demands a complete mental rewiring about what a client is actually buying.
Their true motivation.
Their true motivation. And the shift is this. High-value clients are not purchasing your services. They are purchasing solutions. Solutions to problems that are actively impeding their success, compromising their balance sheet, or, and this is a big one, preventing their leadership from sleeping at night.
So the QS isn't hired for cost estimating.
No. They're hired because the client is terrified of being financially exposed halfway through a massive project.
So we have to move the focus.
Completely. Away from the mechanics of the service, your internal process, and onto the impact of that service, the client's external reality. And to do that, the specialist has to stop seeing themselves as just a technical executor.
And start seeing themselves as what?
A risk mitigation expert. A profit preservation specialist. Or maybe a certainty provider.
A certainty provider. I like that. It's powerful.
It changes everything.
Now, the source material gives us a fantastic specific list of outcomes that really exemplify this shift for the QS consultant. But you can see how they apply everywhere. So instead of the tasks, the professional should be talking about these outcomes.
Ready?
Reduced risk, fewer surprises, better cost control, stronger commercial leadership, and smoother project delivery.
No, just listen to the emotional resonance of that second list. Take reduced risk and fewer surprises. That single phrase taps into a deep-seated pain point that every single construction executive has lived through. The unexpected cost blowout, the sudden legal challenge, the supply chain completely failing.
We've all been there in some form.
Right. Now compare that feeling to the technical phrase from the first list. Cost estimating.
It's sterile.
It's sterile. It's neutral. It's administrative. It just implies standard industry work. But reduced risk, that's emotionally charged. It speaks directly to the consequences of failure, litigation, reputational ruin, a stalled project, and it offers you a way out.
So you're not selling paperwork.
You're selling professional insurance. You are selling peace of mind. And that connection to their deepest fears is what justifies premium pricing. That's the hallmark of all the most successful six-figure freelancers.
I love that framing. Selling insurance and certainty.
Yeah.
Because when you start talking about something like stronger commercial leadership, you're moving beyond transactional work altogether.
Oh, completely.
You're positioning yourself as someone who belongs at the client's strategic table.
Precisely. You're shifting from being a vendor they hire to complete a task to being a strategic partner they rely on for the long-term health of their project.
And that changes the whole negotiation.
Instantly. The conversation moves away from how many hours will this take, and it moves toward how much risk are you going to eliminate for me?
Okay, let's talk about the ripple effect. The source is very clear that when you make this shift in language, your whole online presence transforms. Posts get more traction, profiles actually hold people's attention, and crucially, your DMs, your inbound interest, increases dramatically. Why? Why does this outcome language suddenly activate the digital world?
It comes down to a really simple principle of how decision makers search for things and, how the algorithms work.
Okay.
When an expert posts using a list of tasks, BOQs and variations, who is the main audience for that language?
Other QS professionals.
Exactly, your peers and your competitors. The algorithm sees these niche technical keywords, and it thinks, this person is talking to other technical people. So it shows your content to the technical community.
You're just talking to yourself, essentially.
You're talking inside your own echo chamber. But when you start posting about eliminating surprise budget overruns, you're now using the exact keywords that resonate with CFOs, with project directors, with CEOs.
The people with the checkbooks.
The people who are actively, right now, searching for solutions to their commercial pressures.
So you're changing your audience just by changing your words.
You instantly shift your audience from your peers to your buyers. Now, buyers are fewer in number, but they are dramatically more influential. By speaking the language of C-suite fears and aspirations, risk, margins, predictability, your authority just grows exponentially faster, but within the right circle.
You've made yourself relevant to the people who can actually hire you for high-value work.
You've given them a reason to stop scrolling.
Let's use that analogy we started with for the broader audience. Let's flesh it out. Okay, let's imagine a fractional chief marketing officer, a premium consultant aiming for that six-figure bracket who uses task-based language, they might say on their profile. I offer SEO strategy, content calendar planning, and paid social campaign management.
And that is the classic task list failure, because the client reads that and thinks, my 23-year-old intern can create a content calendar. Why on earth am I paying you $15,000 a month?
Right. It feels commoditized. Now, let's take the outcome-focused fractional CMO. They say, I solve the problem of stalled pipeline conversion and inefficient lead spend, ensuring your next quarter's growth targets are met with predictable, measurable client acquisition.
See the difference? That second professional isn't selling SEO.
Oh.
They're selling predictable revenue. They are selling certainty of growth. Those are the outcomes that a CEO will happily pay a premium for. They've transformed themselves from an outsourced operational task doer into a strategic growth partner.
The task SEO is just the mechanism.
It's just the how. The outcome predictable revenue is the value. And that distinction right there is the absolute bedrock of every successful premium consulting practice.
So you stop asking the client, do you need this specific tool I sell?
Yes. And you start asking, does your biggest commercial headache look and feel like this? By clearly defining the pain they're already in, you become the immediate, obvious solution. Okay, so moving from this abstract idea of outcome language into something you can actually execute requires a blueprint.
Right, the how-to.
And the sources give us exactly that. It's a very specific framework built on 5 pillars, or 5 clarities. And the core message here is that visibility, the kind we're talking about, comes from clarity.
It's not about posting more.
It's not about more content. It's about a clearer definition of your entire professional orbit.
This feels like the most actionable part of our whole analysis. This isn't just, go update your LinkedIn headline. This is a full strategic audit of your professional identity.
That's a great way to put it.
So let's break down these 5 clarities, because these seem like the foundational steps for any specialist who wants to join that 6-figure freelancer league. If you can define these 5 things, your digital presence becomes both a filter and a magnet. A filter for the wrong clients and a magnet for the right ones.
Right. Clarity number 1, clarity of niche. For so many experienced professionals, this is the hardest step.
It's terrifying for them.
It feels completely counterintuitive, right? Like you're intentionally shrinking your own market. If I've spent 20 years learning how to serve residential, commercial, and infrastructure clients, why would I suddenly just decide to cut out 2/3 of that potential business?
Because, as the source insists, trying to serve everyone online results in serving no one effectively. It's a paradox.
How does that work?
When you try to appeal to residential, commercial, and infrastructure developers all at the same time, your message has to be so broad, so generalized, that it becomes bland. It's instantly forgettable to all 3 of those groups. The most effective online positioning relies on a surgical degree of relevance. So let's think about the implication for you, the listener, the QS consultant who used to say they did commercial management for all construction. Their message is just. It's soft.
It's wallpaper. But if they make a choice and specialize only in, say, commercial risk mitigation for renewable energy infrastructure projects, 2 powerful things happen immediately.
Okay, what's the first one?
First, they dramatically reduce the number of competitors they're being compared against. They're out of the general pool.
And second.
This is more important. They achieve instant, overwhelming authority within that very specific niche.
So narrowing your focus doesn't actually limit your opportunities.
No. It filters out all the low-value, low-paying, generic opportunities, and it massively amplifies your relevance for the high-value, niche opportunities, the ones that actually justify those premium rates.
Let's think about that infrastructure developer for a second.
Okay.
When they're searching for help with a high-stakes wind farm construction budget, they are under immense internal pressure. They are not looking for a general practitioner of quantity surveying.
No, they're looking for this specialized cardiac surgeon.
Yes, and the profile that explicitly says, I manage commercial risk exclusively for complex renewable infrastructure developments, that provides instant credibility. It provides trust.
They feel seen. They think, this person gets my world.
And to bring it back to our fractional CMO analogy, instead of them saying, I help B2B companies with marketing,
Which is what 99% of them say.
their niche would be something hyper-specific, like I scale lead generation exclusively for Series A fintech startups in the compliance sector.
And that's the power of the niche right there. It lets you speak with such specific authority. You can demonstrate that you already know about their compliance challenges. You understand the pressures of their funding stage. You get their regulatory environment.
So niche isn't about subtracting opportunity.
It's about multiplying authority and value. It makes your pricing almost non-negotiable because you've just made yourself into an irreplaceable resource, not a replaceable commodity.
Okay, that flows perfectly into the second pillar. Once you've defined your niche, you know exactly who you serve, you then have to articulate the specific paralyzing pain point that you solve for them.
And the key words there are paralyzing and pain. It has to transcend the simple technical aspect of your service.
What do you mean by that?
We have to move beyond superficial problems. It's not about a lack of contract documentation. That's a task-level problem. We're looking for the consequences of that lack. The problems that cost millions of dollars, delay careers, or risk the entire company's solvency.
And the source material gives us a great example of that distinction.
It does, instead of the low-stakes problem, which is we assist with contract support.
The high-stakes clarity is, we eliminate paralyzing contract disputes that stall billion-dollar projects and jeopardize executive careers.
That word paralyzing, it's so important. High-value consultants get paid highly because they solve high-stakes, deeply painful problems. If you're charging premium rates, you have to be preventing catastrophes, not just correcting minor errors.
So, to get this clarity, you have to really understand the commercial world your niche client lives in.
Deeply. You have to know what they are truly afraid of. For that QS consultant, it's the massive legal exposure that comes after a contract dispute. It's the public failure of a major infrastructure project timeline.
And for our fintech fractional CMO, the paralyzing problem isn't poor social media engagement.
God, no, it's the failure to hit predictable customer acquisition targets, which risks us missing our next funding round. That is a career-ending crisis, not a simple marketing headache.
So for you listening, to make this actionable, how do you find that paralyzing problem in your own client base?
You don't ask them what they need. You ask them what they lost. You ask them to describe the absolute worst-case scenario they experienced before they hired someone like you.
And that description of pain.
That is the language you must adopt in your own positioning.
So you ask, what was the immediate consequence of that poor cost control you had?
Exactly. The client won't say, oh, we needed a better BOQ. They'll say, I had to stand in front of the board and justify a 10% budget variance, and my job was on the line.
That emotion, that professional consequence.
That is the clarity of problem we're searching for. The third clarity is about refining the first one, the niche. It's not just about knowing the industry you're in. It's about knowing the specific individual decision maker, their role in the organization, and their specific pressures.
You need a really accurate avatar of the person who's actually going to sign your contract.
A highly accurate one. We touched on this. It's the difference between targeting developers, which is vague,
And targeting CFOs of mid-sized commercial developers specializing in high-density urban infill who are currently undergoing rapid geographical expansion.
And that level of specificity is so vital because it dictates your vocabulary. A CEO cares about completely different things than a project director.
Right. Their pressures are different.
A CEO is worried about long-term strategy and shareholder value. A project director is worried about schedule adherence and on-site logistics. You have to know exactly who is reading your profile to make sure your message lands with their specific pain points.
So if our QS consultant is targeting a CFO,
They're not going to talk about the quality of the scaffolding. They're going to talk about cash flow predictability and mitigating unforeseen financial liabilities.
But if they're targeting a general counsel, the company lawyer.
Then they're going to talk about contract certainty and the efficiency of dispute resolution.
And this ties directly back to that outcome language we discussed. Knowing your client lets you prioritize which positive outcome you need to emphasize.
Yes. For the CFO, you lead with better cost control and financial predictability. For the project director, you lead with smoother project delivery and fewer surprises. You're tailoring the pitch without ever watering down your core niche. That's the definition of targeted authority.
Okay, this fourth clarity feels like the synthesis point. This is where the first three, your niche, your problem, and your client, all merge into one succinct, memorable statement.
Yes, and it has to use that powerful outcome language we identified earlier. This becomes your professional mission statement.
Yeah.
It's designed to be that instant filter and magnet.
And it has to be engineered for how people read online, right?
Yeah.
Short, punchy, and just laser focused on relevance.
Absolutely. This is what replaces that old, boring task list in your professional bio. And it should follow a pretty specific formula. It's, I help clarity of client solve clarity of problem so they can achieve clarity outcome.
I help clients solve problem to get outcome. Simple.
Simple and powerful. Let's build one for our QS consultant who's in that renewable infrastructure space. A really refined clarity of message could be, I partner with public sector utility executives, that's the client,
Okay.
to eliminate debilitating cost escalations and scope creep, that's the problem, resulting in guaranteed project margin preservation and successful compliance reporting. That's the outcome.
Wow. Just notice how that one sentence contains zero technical jargon, but it communicates absolute authority.
Right.
It positions the consultant not as someone who does work, but as someone who guarantees financial security. And that kind of positioning immediately justifies the premium fees that are the hallmark of those top-tier six-figure freelancers.
And that clarity of message does two critical jobs at the same time. It instantly attracts your ideal client. They see their problem right there in your statement.
Yeah.
And just as important, it repels the low-value tire kickers who are only looking for cheap cost estimating.
It's the most efficient gatekeeper you can have.
It really is.
And finally, clarity number 5. We circle back to the outcomes, but now with a specific mandate. They have to be quantifiable or, at the very least, demonstrably felt by the client. It's not enough to just promise better project delivery. You have to define what that actually feels like or what it looks like on their spreadsheet.
This is all about making the invisible benefits of your work visible. If you promise reduced risk, you have to answer the question, how is that measured?
So a measurable outcome might be.
It could be, we reduce the processing time for contract disputes by 50% on average. Or maybe we ensure zero unplanned project shutdowns due to procurement failures, something concrete.
And what if the outcome is more qualitative? Less about numbers.
Then it has to be demonstrably felt. Smoother project delivery, for instance, translates into the client feeling less stressed. So you phrase it like that. You will move from reacting to weekly crises to being able to hold proactive strategy sessions.
You're selling them a better work life.
You're selling them a better state of being. The client has to be able to internalize that return on investment, not just as a cost saving, but as an improvement in their quality of life or their operational stability.
That concept, the felt outcome, feels so crucial for high-value consultants. If you promise stronger commercial leadership.
The felt outcome of that is that the CEO suddenly has total confidence when they present the project's financial status to the board instead of feeling dread.
And that peace of mind is what they're truly paying for. And you can justify a premium rate for that all day long.
All day long. When you can specifically define the current, crisis meetings, financial dread, and then you define the future state strategic planning, financial confidence, the decision to hire you becomes a financial no-brainer.
It removes the conversation from commodity pricing.
And it anchors it in strategic necessity, which is the only way you can unlock the kind of fees that the elite six-figure freelancers are able to charge.
Okay, so wrapping up this whole framework, we get to the clear posting mandate. And this is a huge relief for anyone listening who's already managing a crazy workload.
This is where the source busts a huge myth. And it is, you don't need to post daily, you need to post clearly.
Thank goodness.
For the busy professional, trying to churn out content every day is just a massive time sink, and it rarely pays off if the underlying message is fuzzy.
So, quality over quantity.
100%. The analysis shows that one single, razor-sharp post a week, A post that clearly articulates the niche, identifies the paralyzing problem, and promises a quantified outcome will generate far more qualified inbound interest than 5 generic updates about industry news.
Because every post is a signal.
Every single post becomes a powerful, targeted signal to your ideal buyer. It just makes your marketing efforts vastly more efficient. Hashtag outro.
So after all that, what does this concentrated analysis really mean for you? Whether you're a quantity surveyor, a specialist legal consultant, a niche engineer, or a fractional executive, the path from being that invisible expert, no matter how many decades of skill you have, to becoming an authoritative, sought-after specialist who commands high-level fees is paved entirely with purposeful, outcome-driven messaging.
The foundational shift, the one thing to take away, is you have to move from listing your inputs to guaranteeing results. Stop talking about the mechanics of what you do, the estimating, the reporting, the documentation.
I'd start talking about
Start talking exclusively about the desirable commercial outcomes you produce. Reduced financial risk, minimized litigation exposure, superior cost predictability, stronger commercial leadership.
and use the 5 clarities as your audit tool.
Exactly. Use them as your structured checklist. Niche, problem, client, message, outcome. Go look at your current digital profile and hold it up against each one of those 5 points. If your profile says, I offer X service, you are actively contributing to your own invisibility.
But if it says, I help Y client solve Z major problem,
You are actively building authority.
and the source material really underlines how practical and immediate this advice is. It ends with a direct encouragement for people to engage, right?
It does. It says to comment visible or send a message for help creating a LinkedIn presence that actually reaches decision makers. That mindset, the immediate application of clarity to get commercial results, that's what separates the operational expert from the elite consultant.
In the end, your online profile is not just a digital resume.
No, it is the most critical commercial leader for your entire business. If that commercial leader is speaking only in task language, you are forcing yourself into a price war with every low-cost provider out there.
But if it speaks in outcome language,
If it speaks directly to the client's deepest fears of failure and their highest hopes for success, you position yourself as an indispensable strategic necessity. It's the difference between being seen as a cost center and being seen as the key investment required for project certainty.
so here's our final provocative thought for you to take with you. If your current online profile were the very first email a prospective client ever received from you, would they feel compelled to hire you based on the sheer clarity of the solution you offer?
Or would they instantly start comparing your price to your cheaper competitor, the one who offers the exact same list of tasks?
And specifically, think about your ideal client's single biggest fear. What is that one measurable, commercially significant outcome that you can swap into your primary professional header right now to begin this journey toward visibility?
To start down the path to joining the ranks of those specialized 6-figure freelancers, start with that one outcome and you start the clock on your entire transformation.